Hi, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. And I want to discuss the issue of free will, determinism, personality type, the ENTP, and all things coordinated with existing as an agent in the world. I'm not sure how long I'm going to talk about this. I have no slides on it, but I have a lot of thoughts on it. And somebody was kind enough to ask me. Thank you, Landry. I think it was Landry who asked me that. Thank you, Landry, for asking me about that. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about it. Okay, so here we go. One of the objections to a personality type model is that it seems to indicate that your behaviors and your life decisions are predetermined, or that your nature is somehow excusable in a way that permits you to engage in ongoing bad behaviors rather than addressing them with the excuse that, well, this is my cognitive function X, or whatever. One possible objection. Additionally, even outside of the personality type model, the cognitive function idea suggests that your perspectives are hardwired rather than something you acquire over the course of your life. And yet, intuitively, it seems obvious that you acquire your perspectives, at least your political opinions and your beliefs on how things ought to be in the world, from the community in which you were raised. This age-old nature versus nurture argument that manifests in terms of belief systems now as well. So, where are my beliefs coming from? Are my beliefs from my upbringing? Are my beliefs from my hardwired nature? Are my beliefs things I choose? What does it mean to choose something? These are all challenging questions to ask. And first of all, let's address that last question. Again, I think one of the big problems when people talk about this issue is that there is an assumption of a reality implicit in the question that may not be accurate or consistent with a meaningful answer. What I mean by this is when you ask a question like, what does it mean to choose anyway? Or what does it mean to make a choice? You are assuming, of course, without any way of avoiding it, you have to assume that the thing making the choice is a thing with distinct boundaries and a distinct identity. So, for example, if I say, what knocked over this thing? Who cares what it is? And you say the wind. What knocked over this thing? You say Johnny. What knocked over this thing? You say nothing. It just fell over. Okay, let's look at those three different qualities. First of all, in order to indicate to others that the motion of air was such that it interacted with this thing in such a fashion that the natural state of this thing became lying down. It's easier to say the wind pushed it over. We attribute agency to that which appears to do stuff. Okay? So, now let's look at the second one. Johnny knocked it over. Well, we have a lot more indication that Johnny's a thing than the wind is a thing. Johnny has distinct physical boundaries such that if I were to punch him in the arm, my hand would stop moving his arm. It wouldn't go straight through him like he was a ghost, right? We also know that he's an entity. We can deduce that he's an entity, or conclude that he's an entity, or at least be unlikely to experience negative consequences from behaving as though he were an entity, okay? Which is really what it means to believe something. To have something verified is to do what I just said, to experience no negative consequences from behaving as though this were true, as though this were certain. But remember, Johnny's actually a thing becoming, like I am, like you are, which means he's always in the process of flux, and his identity is not ever fixed, such that, just as with quantum mechanics, the more we know specifically what he is, the less we know what is he becoming. And the truest self is that process of becoming, not any stop along the path of becoming. So, the first underlying assumption problem lies in the fact that we assume the identity is a static thing that we can attribute things to. But in reality, that's the nature of language. It's what it does. It allows us to make meaning because it pins things that are in flux down in such a way as to ascribe to them a single artificial identity for the purposes of debate. Your Spanish teachers and your math teachers and your English teachers will tell you everything in life is Spanish, everything in life is English, everything in life is math, everything in life is science. They are all lying. Everything in life is debate. Everything in life is debate. Science is debate, math is debate, English is debate. It's all about strength of argument. It's all about consistency with what we call axioms, that is to say, arguments that seem indisputable, and that about which there is almost universal consensus. Okay, so what have I covered so far? Well, we're talking about agents that are a process in the same way that playing a song is a process. So that if I said, oh my God, that song made me cry, that makes sense. But what we really mean is, oh my God, hearing that song and thinking about those words is making me cry, or you're referring to it as, you're saying, I now have a meaning narrative associated with that song, and it relates to an experience I had when I listened to that song. I've defined that experience as meaningful in its evocativeness, and I want to share information about that experience with you because I don't know why. That's okay. At this point, we got to stop the forward progression. Do not get to that because or anywhere past it, okay? Because that's not the subject of this goddamn video. I am not going to get off topic. Okay. So, the topic is, what is the topic again? Determinism, right? So, given that we're not things that are in, we aren't pinned down. We are just pinned down by language for the sake of arguing about it. Given that we're not actually pinned down, it may be counterintuitive to imagine that we make choices. Because to make a choice implies that everything stands still while you evaluate between sets of advantages and disadvantages. But it doesn't stand still. Like, the context is constantly evolving. The thing itself, even if it's a space object, if I'm choosing between space objects, like, should I get the red lighter or the blue lighter, right? I have a red one right here. Look at that. Should I get the red lighter or the blue lighter? Which one do I want? Well, these are decisions I make a lot, right? I've got two things that I consider when I'm making a decision like this. What color lighter do I have with me right now? So I want a different color lighter than the one I already have. And there's rationale that's underlying that I never think, right? I don't think when I'm saying to myself, oh, I want it to be a different color because blah, blah, blah. I don't work out the argument chain. I've got that compacted up to a little miniature set called Get a Different Color. It explains when I look at that, that's the label. That's all I ever think. But if I choose to look at that label and deconstruct it, I know why I want to get a different color this time. And it doesn't matter why. I don't know. You really want me to explain why? Probably not. You probably know why, right? Because if this one's running out, you want to know which one's running out and which one's full. Anyway, there's other reasons too, I think. There are old reasons that don't even apply anymore. Like, if you go to a party, I don't ever go to goddamn parties. I'm not a teenager or a 20-something or even a 30-something. I basically don't go to any parties. I don't want to go to parties. Anyway, so is that a free choice I'm making? Well, what it really is an execution of my identity that I have previously become. Now, if you've become well, and I don't know if that's your responsibility or not. I don't know if you deserve credit for it. I don't know. That choice, when I go in to make a choice and get a lighter and get a different color than the one before, it is an expression of that which I have already become. However, this is the magic. The magic is metacognition. If you're thinking about how you're thinking, I'd never thought of this lighter thing before. I never thought of any of these ideas actually before. Right now, I thought about the subject a lot. I'd done all the pre-work, I guess. It had never occurred to me that this is the link right here. This is the link right here. It's like, no, you're not pinned down. Sorry, it's an illusion that you're pinned. So it makes no sense to even ask the question if you're making choices. You're expressing that which you are becoming, and you are becoming that which you are becoming, and I'm becoming that which I'm becoming right now. It's meaningless to even ask the question if I'm making a choice. Well, as the thing that I am becoming makes choices. That's for sure. Okay, it does. The process of becoming is, in fact, nothing but a process of eliminating some options and embracing others. So then the question becomes, who's doing that? Who's doing that? Well, when you ask that question, you're really saying, what pinned down agent is doing that? And the answer is none. There is no pinned down agent. It doesn't exist. We are confident and comfortable in our own identity only because words are static. Meaning is mostly static. And even as it changes, it doesn't feel less static because we know the evolved meaning of it, and that evolved meaning just feels like a new static evolved meaning. So as a consequence, before we even know how to speak a lot, we already have made the leap. We are existing in a world of symbols that are artificially reassuring us that things are constant, that things are static, so that we can function, so that we can. It's like our reward for observing reality or something. It's our reward for observing reality is the illusion of identity. The fact that I am I or something, what it really means is we're a becoming machine that has motivations, but the becoming process includes metacognition, and that opens up the system. At that point, you can't really reduce it any further than that. You can metacognate your way into almost anything you want. It's just a matter of thinking about it hard enough and long enough. It's what I call time magic. You can't really will it, though. You can't will it because it's not something you do. It's something you become.